The battle for the Christian stronghold of Kosovo in 1389 was a difficult struggle between the Christian and Muslim armies. Kosovo was the heartland of the Serbian kingdom. The stronghold of Kosovo is a holy place in the Eastern Christian Empire. The Ottoman Empire tried to wrest control of Kosovo from the Byzantine Empire. This crucial confrontation between these Christian and Muslim superpowers took place on the battlefield of Kosovo. Ottoman Sultan pitted against Serbian Prince, locked in mortal combat in an intense struggle for survival and dignity. Welcome to History Uncharted. Get ready to learn all about this battle for Kosovo and about the winner of this struggle for the soul of Serbia. Why did they fight? In 1350, a political crisis arose in the Balkan Peninsula. The Christian Byzantine Empire began to decline, and the Ottoman Turks began conquering their lands. The Eastern Christian Empire had to defend itself against the Western Christian Empire, and the empire also had to defend itself against the Muslim Ottoman Empire. The Byzantine Empire was trapped in the middle, between East and West. It was finally torn to shreds. The Christian Orthodox Church ruled the Serbian kingdom, and it derived its religion and culture from Byzantium. It had a strong resistance to Islam. Europe didn't want the Ottomans to come into their land, so the Serbian kingdom sought to unite Christendom and expel the Ottomans from Europe. In 1386, the Turks closed in on Nis in eastern Serbia. 3 years later, the Turks advanced to Pirat. In Bosnia, the Turks lost ground. Their aim was to penetrate Central Europe and the Danube. Prince Lazar of Serbia rallied the Serbian people against the Turks. Prince Lazar's son-in-law, Vuk Branković, ruler of Kosovo and Skopje, supported him. Prince Lazar used the art of diplomacy to cultivate powerful alliances. He ordered his daughters to marry aristocrats in Bosnia and Hungary. It isn't clear whether Prince Lazar realized he would have to defend Kosovo against such a powerful army, but whether he understood this or not, war was on his doorstep. Before the battle, in 1389, Sultan Murad I of the Ottoman Empire mustered his troops in Plovdiv in Bulgaria and began preparing his onslaught in Serbia. At Plovdiv, Murad had to choose between two routes into Serbia. One route ran through Sofia and Nis. The other route headed south through Kustendil, Velbust. Nis would be the easier choice because flooding was common in Kustendil. So in the end, the Muslim ruler Murad chose the Kustendil route because it would be quicker. At Kratovo, he was met by a Serbian envoy. The Christian messenger handed Murad a letter from Prince Lazar, the ruler of Serbia. The letter started with the endearing phrase, "My brother Khan," but Murad wasn't interested in peace. The only word in Murad's mind was war. This spelled the doom of the Christians in Kosovo. The Turkish army journeyed next to the southern Morava. They stopped where the river forks south. Here, they were unfolding their banners, beating their drums, playing their trumpets, and getting ready for battle. It was straight up Game of Thrones style. By midday, the tireless Turkish troops covered 13 miles to Novo Brdo without a rest. The Turks captured 2 Serbian reconnaissance troops on the road before sheltering under the walls of the city. They didn't stop to capture Novo Brdo because it had strong defenses. Instead, they waited, and the next day they reached Kosovo Field, at a crossroads between Balkan trade routes. Here, they set up camp. Their horses, mules, and camels carried their supplies. They were ready for action. Suddenly, Sultan Murad and his son Bayazeth Yildirim Lightning heard an alert. The enemy forces were approaching. Murad I and his son were surprised to meet 25,000 Serbian soldiers on their path ahead, but they didn't panic. They had 38,000 men on their side. Here is a Serbian poem about the battle. From Zvečan fortress, brother, to Chechan, from Chechan to the mountain summit, everywhere the Turkish soldiers pressed, horse upon horse, hero on hero, their battle lances like black mountain peaks, their banners like the clouds, and their tents like winter snows. If heavy rain had dropped from the sky, nowhere would it have fallen on the earth, but on goodly horses and heroes. The Turks. The Turks were united and experienced in battle. The Turks had foot soldiers that were paid by the state. The corps of janissaries were unstoppable. These janissaries were men from Christian territories who'd been converted to Islam as children. They were terrifying. Turkish archers were lined up at the front. Behind them was a deep ditch studded with stakes, its purpose being to protect the center, the infantry, and the cavalry. Sultan Murad I stood in the center. His banner had golden letters. His elder son Bayazeth led the right wing. Yakub Celebiya led the left wing. His troops were from Asia Minor. The Turks wore pointed helmets covered with coins. Their armor had inscriptions from the Quran and also the name of their Sultan, Murad I. They lit fires and had their camels frighten the enemy horses. They also used commissariat carts as a barrier behind the soldiers. The mighty Serbs. Prince Lazar's army set out from Kruševac, Lazar's capital and strategic point. It was easy for his army to march out from here and to meet the threat of the Turkish Ottomans. The Serbs were made up of troops from different regions. Some were from Bosnia and others were foreign mercenaries, but they had one major disadvantage. These men had never fought together before. They had no previous. They spent the night feasting, preparing to sacrifice themselves for their land and their religion. The Serbian lines faced southeast. Prince Lazar commanded from the center. His son-in-law Vuk Branković headed the right wing. Vlatko Vuković led the Bosnian troops on the left wing. The Serbian leader Miloš Obilić and his men supported him. Archers were placed at the front and behind them the cavalry lined up. The horsemen wore heavy armor and bristled with weapons. Their belts were slung diagonally over their shoulders. On their left side were two-edged swords, and on the right side long and short knives. Others had halberds and knobbed maces. Their helmets were horned and shaped like eagles. Their wooden shields were faced with steel and leather. Behind the cavalry stood the untrained foot soldiers. They were tough to beat. The battle. On June 15, 1389, at Kosovo Field, a high-rolling plateau roughly 60 miles north of Skopje, the terrible and terrifying battle between the Ottoman Turks and the Serbs ensued. At 4 in the morning, in the dead of night, the Serbs fired a volley of arrows, and the Turks launched their first charge. Bayazet's right wing engaged with the Serbian left wing led by Vuković and the Bosnians. Brankovic's right wing stayed at their vantage point at the top of the slope. The Serbs charged full force and the Turks retreated. The Janissaries and other foot soldiers struggled, but the bowmen inflicted heavy losses on the Serbs, a turning point. Sultan Murad succumbed to a stab wound at the hand of the Serbian commander, Miloš Obilić. He snuck into the Sultan's tent by pretending to be an informer. The Sultan had succumbed, and the Serbs could smell victory, but the stake-strewn trenches caught them off guard. This dangerous barrier caused countless casualties and blocked their advance. Bayazet took over from his father, Sultan Murad, defended his left wing and center, and counterattacked. The Turks targeted the Serbian center. The Turks were superior in numbers and were able to cut through the Serbians. Branković betrayed Prince Lazar and made an agreement with the Sultan. He withdrew his troops during a crucial moment in the battle. Never trust his son-in-law. The rest of the Serbs retreated northwards. This broke the Serbian line and the Turkish troops triumphed. Revenge. Bayazet had lost his father in battle. This was a terrible blow. Even his troops struggled to come to grips with it. It was the first time in history that a sultan had perished during a battle. It isn't easy to lose your leader mid-battle, so Bayazet was out for revenge. He decided to get rid of the enemies that had eliminated his dearly beloved dad once and for all. Prince Lazar and his nobles were captured and taken to Bayazet. They must have been terrified. Bayazet was set on revenge. He told Prince Lazar that he, Lazar, had caused his father's sad and early demise. Prince Lazar replied that the Sultan had got what he deserved for threatening the Serbian kingdom. This was not a great career move. Bayazet lost it and demanded that Prince Lazar's head be served on a silver platter. He got what he wanted. Bayazet then ordered that the head of Miloš Obilić, his father's killer, be brought to him on a platter. He got that too. Heads up to Bayazet. The aftermath. The battle was finished after 4 hours of heavy fighting. This was a very long time for a medieval conflict. So why did the Turks win? The main answer is that they were better disciplined. They were a united force operating under one leader. The Serbs, on the other hand, each had their own leader, and they were not united. The Turks had better tactics and more soldiers. There were 4 phases in the battle. First, a Turkish attack. Next, a successful Serbian offensive. Then, a Turkish counterattack. Finally, the flight of the Serbs. But this Turkish success didn't mean that the Turks ruled Serbia. Instead, Serbia's power diminished. Prince Lazar refused to surrender and perished in a battle with the Ottoman Sultan instead of living in shame. For him, it was a battle of good, Christianity, against evil, Islam. Guess for Bayazet, it was the opposite. After the battle, Lazar's widow, Milica, and their son, Stephen Lazarević, governed Serbia. In 1390, Milica married off her youngest daughter, Olivera, to Bayezid to create an alliance with the Ottoman Empire. Not so sure how Prince Lazar would have felt about that though. He had plenty of problems with his sons-in-law. This was a battle of heroes that was talked about for centuries. The heroism on both sides, Christian and Muslim, has been celebrated throughout Europe. Now, their admirable sacrifices are hardly remembered, but our channel is incredibly happy to have been able to tell you all about it. If you want to learn more about awesome history battles, then check our channel. This is History Uncharted. See you next time.